Standing before the mirror in her small Norfolk, Virginia apartment, Lieutenant Maya Johnson adjusted her naval uniform with the meticulous precision that had become second nature after 8 years of service in the United States Navy. At 32, Maya had earned the respect of her superiors through hard work, unquestionable discipline, and a brilliant mind that set her apart even in the most competitive environment. The daughter of Jamaican immigrants who came to America seeking opportunity, she grew up with the values of perseverance and excellence deeply ingrained in her identity. Maya checked the time on the digital clock beside her bed. 5:40 in the morning. Enough time to reach the naval base before dawn, as she preferred. She enjoyed the tranquility of the early morning hours, when she could organize her thoughts and prepare for the day without interruptions. As a logistics officer, her role demanded constant precision and anticipation, qualities that had led to her recent promotion. The sky was still dark when Maya left the apartment and got into her black Honda Civic. The cool October air seeped through the car's vents as she drove through the still deserted streets of Norfolk. The 15-minute drive to the naval base was a ritual she used to mentally prepare for the day's task. That morning, in particular, there was an important meeting about redirecting resources for an operation in the Pacific. As she turned onto Hampton Avenue, Maya noticed the blue and red lights flashing in her rearview mirror. She checked the speedometer was within the speed limit. Maybe it was just an emergency vehicle, but the lights persisted, now accompanied by the unmistakable sound of a siren. Maya sighed and carefully pulled the car over to the side of the road. Officer Dennis Reeves, 47, watched the black Honda Civic slow down and stop. He grabbed his flashlight and got out of the patrol car, adjusting the belt where he carried his gun, baton, and handcuffs. 23 years working for the Norfolk Police Department had given him a sense of authority that was visible in his posture. He walked like someone who was rarely questioned and who didn't appreciate it when he was. "License and registration," Reeves said dryly, pointing the flashlight directly at Maya's face, even though it was already bright enough to see without her. "Good morning, officer," Maya replied politely, keeping her hands visible on the steering wheel as she had been taught. "Since childhood, may I ask what the infraction was?" "License and registration first," Reeves repeated, his tone more harsh. "Questions later." Maya slowly reached into the glove compartment and retrieved the document, handing them to the officer. "Here they are, sir." Reeves examined the documents for an excessive amount of time, occasionally glancing back at Maya. "You know your taillight is faulty, right?" Maya frowned. She had checked the car's lights the previous week during routine maintenance. "Are you sure, officer? I had a full checkup done recently and everything was working." "Are you calling me a liar?" Reeves's tone instantly hardened. "Please, get out of the vehicle." "Official. Get out of the vehicle. Now." Reeves's hand went down to his gun holster, a subtle but unmistakably threatening movement. Maya felt a surge of adrenaline but remained calm. She knew this was a critical moment. "Yes, sir. I'm getting out slowly." She unbuckled her seatbelt and opened the door, keeping her movements deliberate and calm. "Hands where I can see them," Reeves ordered. Maya raised her hands to shoulder height. "Officer, I'm Lieutenant Johnson of the United States Navy. I'm en route to Norfolk Naval Base for my shift. If there's any trouble with my vehicle, I can lean against the hood and spread your legs," Reeves interrupted, completely ignoring the information about his military status. "With all due respect, officer, I believe there has been a misunderstanding. There was no infraction and resisting arrest now?" Reeves' face took on an expression that Maya recognized as dangerous, a mixture of irritation and anticipation. "Turn around and put your hands behind your back." "I'm not resisting, officer. I'm just..." Before she could finish, Maya felt her arm being twisted back with unnecessary force. Reeves pushed her against the hood of the car, pressing her down with his weight as he put on the handcuffs. "You're hurting me," Maya said, her voice restrained but firm. "This is unnecessary." Reeves tightened the handcuffs even more, making Maya gasp in sudden pain. "When an officer gives an order, you obey. Simple as that. Paperwork." Eventually, another officer, visibly uncomfortable with the situation, removed the handcuffs. "Lieutenant Johnson," said Sergeant Miller, a middle-aged man with a tired expression. You are being charged with driving with a defective headlight and resisting arrest. You can make a phone call and you will be released on bail. Maya massaged her aching wrists. I want to file a formal complaint against Officer Reeves for excessive use of force and improper conduct. Miller sighed. You, Tivers, watching the scene with curiosity. Dravies sped past, watching the scene with curiosity. Maya felt the weight of humiliation as she was led to the police car, dressed in her full United States Navy uniform. For the next 3 hours, Maya remained seated in a waiting room at the police station, still handcuffed, while Reeves slowly processed the can fill out a form on your way out. Maya knew that those forms rarely resulted in any concrete action. She called her commander, who arranged for her immediate release and assured her that a military lawyer would be available to advise her. When she finally arrived at the naval base, 4 hours late and visibly shaken, her commander, Captain Richard, received her in his office. "Johnson, this is unacceptable," said the gray-haired 50-year-old man, his expression stern. "You missed the logistics planning meeting. Sir, I was unjustly detained by the local police." "I can't explain. I heard the basics over the phone," Richards interrupted. "But you need to understand that I represent the Navy. Incidents with local police reflect poorly on all of us." Maya felt a pang of indignation. "Captain, with all due respect, I was the victim of abuse of authority. The officer used excessive force without any provocation." Richards looked at her for a long moment. "Lieutenant, you have an impeccable record. I don't want this to tarnish your career. My advice? Pay the fine and move on." Maya straightened her posture. "Sir, I can't do that. If you'll allow me to speak frankly, what happened this morning was a clear injustice. If I simply accept it, I'll be validating that behavior." The captain sighed. "Johnson, I know you feel wrong, but think pragmatically. Challenging this could become a distraction from your responsibilities here. With all due respect, sir, it is my duty to defend what is right, both as an officer and as a citizen." Richards recognized the determination in Maya's eyes. "Very well, Lieutenant, but know that you will be facing this virtually alone. I can provide limited legal assistance, but officially, the Navy prefers not to get involved in disputes with local authorities." In the following weeks, Maya divided her time between her duties at the base and consultations with the military attorney assigned to her case, Lieutenant Commander Marcus Bennett. After reviewing the evidence, including the body camera footage that Bennett obtained through a court subpoena, it became clear that there was no problem with the taillight on Maya's vehicle. "This is blatant abuse of authority," said Bennett, a 40-year-old black man with a respectable career in the JAG Corps, the military legal body, and unfortunately, it's a pattern with Officer Reed. "I've found 6 similar complaints in the last 2 years, all dismissed without consequence." Maya looked at the photos of her bruised wrists that had been taken shortly after the incident. "What do you suggest?" "We can contest the accusations, obviously, but I'm thinking about something else. Would you consider filing a civil lawsuit against Reeves and the police department? That would draw attention to the problem in a way that a simple internal complaint wouldn't." Maya hesitated. "This could affect my career in the Navy." "Potentially," Bennett agreed. "But sometimes we have to decide which battles are worth fighting even at personal risk." After a night of reflection, Maya decided to move forward with the process. It wasn't just about her. It was about everyone who faced similar situations without having the voice or resources to defend themselves. News of Lieutenant Maya Johnson's civil lawsuit against Officer Dennis Reeves and the Norfolk Police Department quickly spread through the community. Some Navy colleagues kept their distance, concerned about the implications of association. Others, especially women and minorities, expressed quiet support, often sharing similar stories in private conversations. Reeves, for his part, was furious. In his 23-year career, he had never faced serious consequences for his actions. Previous complaints had been quietly filed away, with the department closing ranks around him. His reputation as a hardline cop was well known, though rarely openly discussed. The idea that a civilian, no matter her military rank, would dare to challenge him was unthinkable. "She's going to regret this," he commented to colleagues in the police station's locker room. Who does she think she is? The case initially received little attention from the local media, but that changed when Maya's legal team presented body camera evidence in court. The footage clearly showed there was no problem with the rear light and that Maya had been respectful. While Reeves escalated the situation without provocation, the first hearing was tense. Reeves appeared in court with his wife and teenage children, clearly trying to project the image of a devoted family man unjustly accused. His lawyer, Frank Townsend, a former prosecutor with deep connections in the local judicial system, argued passionately that Reeves was simply doing his job in a dangerous environment. Officer Reeves makes difficult decisions daily to keep our community safe, Townsend stated. Lieutenant Johnson may not have understood the seriousness of questioning a police officer's authority during a routine traffic stop, but that doesn't make the officer's actions inappropriate, Bennett countered with clinical precision. The evidence shows there was no initial infraction. Lieutenant Johnson's vehicle was in perfect condition. Officer Reeves fabricated an excuse for the stop and then escalated the situation when questioned politely. This is not an isolated case, but part of a pattern of behavior. The judge, a 60-year-old white man with a history of rulings favorable to the police, allowed the case to proceed, albeit with evident reservation. I will be watching closely to ensure that this court is not used for a political agenda, he warned, looking directly at Maya. As the case progressed to the discovery phase, Bennett uncovered a disturbing pattern. Of the last 216 traffic stops Reeves had conducted in the previous 12 months, 78% involved black drivers in a city where only 42% of the population was black. Furthermore, black drivers, there's 3 times more likely to be searched or detained during these stops. When this information was presented to the court, the case began to attract national attention. Journalists from major media outlets started appearing at the hearing, and Maya Johnson's name began circulating on news programs as a symbol of resistance against police abuse. Pressure mounted on the Norfolk Police Department, which had initially defended Reeves unconditionally. Videos of previous incidents involving the officer began to surface, showing a pattern of aggressive behavior, especially towards minorities. For Maya, the public attention was uncomfortable, but necessary. I never wanted to be in the spotlight, she confessed to Bennett after a particularly intense, but if it helps bring about real change, it's worth it. As the case unfolded, Maya continued to perform her duties in the Navy, albeit under increasing pressure. Some superiors made it clear that they considered her a troublemaker, while others showed quiet respect for her courage. Captain Richards maintained an officially neutral stance, although privately, he had begun to acknowledge the validity of Maya's position. "You opened a can of worms, Johnson," he said during a private meeting. But perhaps it was a can that needed to be opened. 6 months after the initial incident, the case finally went to trial. The courtroom was packed, a mix of uniformed police officers supporting Reed, community activists supporting Maya, and a significant media presence. Reeves' defense strategy quickly became clear: attack Maya's character and question her motives. Townsend portrayed her as an ambitious military officer seeking attention, exploiting racial tensions for personal gain. Lieutenant Johnson is not just a Navy officer, Townsend argued during his opening statement. She is an activist with an agenda. This process is not about justice. It's about undermining police authority at a time when our officers face unprecedented challenges. Bennett kept the focus on the facts. This case is not about politics or agenda. It's about a specific officer who abused authority against a specific citizen. The evidence will show not only that officers violated Lieutenant Johnson's rights, but that this behavior is part of a systemic pattern that the department has ignored for years. For 3 weeks, the court heard testimony from witnesses, experts on the use of force, and reviewed hours of body camera footage, not only from the incident with Maya, but from others involving. Reeves himself was called to the witness stand, where he projected both confidence and indignation. "I have served this community for over 2 decades, he declared. "Every day I put my life on the line, safe. Now I'm being demonized for doing my job." During cross-examination, Bennett was meticulous, making Reeves review every moment of the encounter with Maya, every decision made, every opportunity to de-escalate that was ignored. Officer Reeves, you are stating that the taillight on Lieutenant Johnson's vehicle was defective. Is that correct? Yes, it was. Bennett played back the body camera footage that clearly showed Maya's vehicle with both taillights functioning perfectly. How do you explain this evidence? Reeves hesitated. The camera may not have captured the problem adequately. I saw it with my own eye. And when Lieutenant Johnson politely questioned the reason for the stop, you immediately escalated the situation to an arrest, correct? She was being disrespectful and uncooperative. Bennett played the recording again, where Maya's calm and respectful voice contrasted sharply with Reeves's growing aggression. The jury can hear for themselves, officer. When Maya finally took the witness stand, she was composed and articulate, her impeccable naval uniform a reminder of her service to her country. Lieutenant Johnson, why did you decide to sue? Officer Reeves and the police department? Bennett asked. Maya looked directly at the jury. I swore to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Injustice and abuse of power erode the fundamental principles of our nation. I cannot and will not remain silent when I witness such abuses, especially when they disproportionately affect specific communities. During cross-examination, Townsend tried to provoke her, suggesting she was exaggerating the incident for attention or financial compensation. Maya remained unmoved. No, sir. I didn't want this attention. In fact, I would have preferred to avoid it. But there are times when we must decide what kind of society we want to be. When faced with injustice, we can ignore it for convenience or confront it on principle. I chose to confront it. After days of deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict. The courtroom was completely silent when the judge asked the spokesperson to read the decision. In the case of Johnson versus Reeves and the Norfolk Police Department, we found the defendant, Dennis Reeves, liable for violation of civil rights, excessive use of force, and unlawful detention. A murmur echoed through the room. Maya closed her eyes briefly, feeling a wave of emotion that she quickly controlled. The jury awarded Maya $750,000 in damages, but more significantly, required the department to implement comprehensive training on racial bias and use of force, as well as a monitoring system to identify patterns of problematic behavior among officers. Reeves, who never imagined he would face real consequences, seemed stunned. His world, where his badge made him virtually untouchable, had crumbled. The police department, facing intense public scrutiny, announced an internal review that would eventually result in his dismissal. In the days that followed, Maya received hundreds of messages of support, many from people sharing similar stories of police abuse that they never had the courage or resources to challenge. Civil rights organizations reached out to her to discuss how her case could serve as a model for broader reforms. At the naval base, the atmosphere surrounding Maya gradually changed. Captain Richards called her for a private meeting a week after the verdict. Lieutenant Johnson, I must admit I underestimated the importance of what you were doing, he said, his expression serious. You stood up to an injustice not only as an individual, but as a naval officer defending the values we swore to protect. That deserves recognition. Maya nodded, maintaining the professional composure that had always characterized her. Thank you, sir. I only did what I believed was right. The Navy is implementing a new community relations training program for all officers. Richards continued, I would like you to lead the development of the curriculum, based on your experience. In the following months, Maya channeled her experience into constructive work, collaborating with local police departments willing to implement genuine reforms while continuing her naval career with renewed purpose. The Johnson v. Reeves case became a case study in police academies and law schools, a reminder that the badge confers authority but not impunity. 2 years after the incident, Maya was promoted to lieutenant commander, her reputation for unwavering integrity now a recognized part of her professional identity. In her new role, she oversaw not only logistical operations, but also ethics training programs for naval officers. One autumn afternoon, while driving home after a long day at the base, Maya noticed police lights in her rearview mirror. With a deep sigh, she pulled over. A young officer approached, his posture respectful. Good afternoon, ma'am. I just wanted to inform you that your rear license plate has a dim light. It's not an infraction, but I thought you should know so you can fix it. Maya observed the officer's badge, a new design implemented after the department's reforms. Thank you, officer. I'll take care of it. The young man hesitated. If I may say so, Commander Johnson, your case has changed the way we do our work, for the better. Maya smiled slightly. I'm glad to hear that, officer. That's what we expect from justice, that it evolves and improves. As the officer returned to his patrol car and Maya continued her way home, she reflected on the journey of the past few years. The process had never been about revenge or personal glory. It was about establishing that no one, not even those with a badge, was above the law. In her apartment that night, Maya opened a letter that had arrived earlier, an invitation to speak at a national conference on police reform. Next to the invitation was a handwritten note. Your courage changed systems that seemed immutable. Thank you for not backing down. Maya placed the letter on the table and gazed out the window at the Norfolk light. Perhaps real change wouldn't come from grand gestures or sweeping laws, but from individuals who refused to accept injustice, even when it would be easier to simply move on. The battle for equality and accountability has never been over. It would completely undermine everything. But each victory, however small, paved the way for a more just future. And for Maya Johnson, that awareness was the most valuable reward of all.